Hey, what's happening? Ronin Man here. Hey, we all know the bitter old man, right? Or the bitter old lady, where you walk by their house. When I was a kid, there was this lady, we called her, it was the lady of the pink house, right? The pink house. And she was so bitter that you would walk by her house. Literally, you would walk by her house. If you walked on the sidewalk in front of her house, she would run out and hit us with garbage bags full of garbage. I mean, literally. Like, we're like kids walking by her house. The only way she wouldn't do that is if you didn't walk on the sidewalk. And like, we had done nothing to her. Nothing. We didn't even know her. I was a paper boy in that area. And this woman was so bitter that she would just attack people outside. And, I just think of the bitter people, and I got a comment, and this video is a reaction or an answer or a question or a way to think about bitterness. It started with a comment, and Lam Nguyen left a comment on, which video was it? Let's see. One of the recent ones. It was the title was The Story of a Japanese Girl, right? And so he said here, really glad you speak about these things and about searching for realness in life, especially since you're older and experienced guy and haven't lost your fire. It's very hard to find old warriors in real life and look up to and respect. Makes me really sad. It just seems that most people don't age like fine wine. They only get sour. Okay, so I got thinking about this one, and I think it's a very good topic. So I think as a young person, let's say as a very young person, as a kid, 10 years old, you look around at the world and it's shocking, right? Because none of your friends are bitter. Like, there's no, I don't think I've ever met a bitter 10-year-old, but when you look at older people, you see bitter people, right? So as a young person, I think one of the things I decided, or I think everybody kind of thinks, is I don't want to become a bitter old man. Like, I just don't want to do that, right? But despite that, you will see people, kids, like I said, there's no bitter old kids, bitter young kids, and then they become bitter when they become older. So even the very people who make a decision, they can see a bitter old man and they make a decision that they don't want to live that way. They don't like that. They don't appreciate that. But what is it that evades our ability to not become what we don't want to be? Or what changes in our vision that would make it acceptable to be that? And is it okay? Is it okay to be a bitter old man? Is it okay to have a value when you're a kid and then to change? I think those are fair questions. We're not here to bag on anybody. Some people are bitter, no doubt about it. And this is a very unusual episode compared to anything you're going to hear on the internet, because whenever anyone talks about anything like this, they're always going to say, basically they're happy. And those fucking bitter people over there, they're fucked, right? They are fucked, And I think it's much more complicated than that. I want to get into the weeds on this one because I think it's a very, very good topic. And I think, Lam, thanks for bringing it up. So let's go over it. So what is bitter? What is a bitter person, right? I would say generally, you can think yourself, what makes a person bitter? I would say they generalize, right? They think about people. Maybe they don't see things, individual people, so much anymore. Like, for example, that old lady, she saw me as a kid, right? So she thought kids, obviously she didn't like kids. So she's like, I don't like kids. That's generalizing, right? Because obviously there would be some kids that would be very nice to her, right? But that doesn't matter. She's going to generalize. So that would be one sign. And this is actually one very strong reason, or one of my reasons why I don't like a lot of the men's community, is because there's so much generalization. And that generalization all women do this, all women do that. That generalization will lead you to be a bitter person. Simply because, well, for starters, it's not true. People are not the same, right? And one of the hallmarks of somebody who's given up is that they no longer care. Like they no longer look at people and individuals and say, wait, what is this person doing? Because it's a lot of work. It's easier to generalize. It's much easier. And you can see it in women. If you've ever dated a bitter woman, and I've definitely come across bitter women, they basically don't like men. Maybe they got hurt by somebody, and just like a bitter old man, they lost the ability to see individuals for who they are. And it's easier for them to hold on to basically see things in black and white. Now, when I say easier, I mean it's easier at the moment. And it's easier if you look at only the short term. But if you look at the holistic view of yourself as a living person who yearns for, who strives for, who needs social interaction, who needs friends, who needs support sometimes. You have good times, you have bad times. You need support. Sometimes you need a kind word. Sometimes you need someone to help you with something, teach you something, right? One of the worst ways to develop a social network, to fulfill that social need that you have as a human. And this is a very real need. This is no joke. This is why I don't recommend, taking the Unabomber route, because as attractive as that might sound when you're very angry in the moment, you are neglecting your more deeper needs. We need social interaction. This is why people go to social groups. Like I will often go to, for example, I'll go to a meeting and it doesn't really matter what it's about. Not that much. Like I meet some new people, I hear some new things, I can be there and it's enjoyable. The other day I went to UFC Brunswick with Gabe, and we went and worked out. Great gym, by the way, fucking great gym. And really, they had everything, and it's like a fighting gym. It's got all kinds of weights, and Gabe is training, so he was doing grappling. He was grappling. I was watching him, and as I was sitting there, nobody else was watching, so a lot of people came up to me and started talking to me, and they're very friendly. And there was probably 20% girls there that were learning UFC fighting. It was quite interesting, and it's a very high-level gym, so everybody there was very serious, and it was fun to watch. It was fun to watch. I'm not like I've never studied any martial arts. I've never, except for Tai Chi, but it's more like a movement. I don't think that's a martial art. But Tai Chi is more of a meditation. But I just have never studied, and I've never been interested, to be honest, and in formal training, and so I wouldn't be interested in the individual so much of the specifics, but I was interested in how serious they were about it. I was interested in the way they looked at it, how they'd been doing it, how long they'd been doing it. I was interested in why they do it, how long it takes. I was interested in a lot of things. And that's because I'm just interested in people, but just being social with them was very nice because, it's a lockdown now. And then, I don't know if you realize it, but you're not getting as much social interaction as usual, right? So it was really quite meaningful sitting there because I had to wait a long time for him to finish, and it was actually quite nice. Actually, I got to meet a lot of people. The main teacher came up to me, asked me questions, and if I was interested, and he was quite nice, and so I got a lot of social interaction right from that, and I just found myself feeling quite good when I left. Now it's a cold day. It was a rainy night. There was nothing, particularly. We got out too late to go eat, so we didn't get to what we wanted to eat. So like in that sense, it didn't turn out, but the night was wonderful, and I still have a great feeling about that gym, and it's because of that social interaction. So when you generalize, you cut yourself off, from the sunlight of let's just call it the sunlight of the spirit of what you need as a social person, the spirit of the universe, spirit of cooperation, the spirit of sharing, the spirit of helping other people. Because you can't help people if you think they're all idiots. You know what I mean? If you think they're all morons, you can't help them because you're not even looking at them. How the hell are you going to help them, right? So this is a very dangerous one. Another thing here's where I disagree, okay, about bitterness. I really disagree on this one. If you search for bitterness, say on the internet, they're going to say people that don't hold grudges. So people that hold grudges are bitter. I think that this one needs to be dissected, because I think that I really disagree with this one. And the reason why is because at some level, I would say the deepest level of myself, I really care about truth. Truth drives me. And so when I see something, if somebody does something, if I see an evil person, let's just say, evil is the best word. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. It's a person who does not have good intentions for others. Because it's not because they're bitter. This is way different than that. This is a person who enjoys to see other people struggling. They don't like happy people. They enjoy sabotaging others. They've totally, not only have they turned their back on that sense of connection and helping, they like destruction. They like to see people hurt. They like to see people cry. They actually make people cry because it makes them happy. That's the definition of what I would say evil. So here's where I really disagree, because grudges could be seen in two ways. Okay, so grudge could be where you are angry at somebody for no reason. So let's say, I don't know if you ever watched there was an old TV show called Family Feud or something like that. And it was two families and they just hated each other, but there was nobody knew why anymore. That's a grudge. That's a grudge in the sense that I think that they're talking about is the grudge. You're holding this grudge, but it doesn't even make any sense. But a person that holds grudges is also a person who doesn't forget the truth. And I think there's an essential part of me and a part of, let's say, investigative reporter, or anybody who's looking for the truth, is that when you look for the truth, you're going to find some ugly things. And when you find those ugly things, what a lot of people will tell you is, if you want to be happy, okay, so in other words, you want to be optimistic, you want to be happy, and you don't want to be bitter, what you need to do at some level is suck it up and basically not worry about it. Now, I disagree on this one. When I see something that is truly evil, I have a method that I use to both never forget and also to not let it ruin my life. Because I think for myself, I don't know if other people have the stamina, the emotional constitution to do this, but I think the balance is very important, because I know when I'm lying to myself. And if somebody is evil, if something is evil, if something is hurting people, right? I think that there is a very important part of a human that needs to, at least for myself, okay, for my personality, I don't forget it. At the same time, is I'm able to compartmentalize that and say, okay, that person is bad. And then I might meet them and they might do something nice, but it doesn't matter. And I'm talking about very serious things here. Okay, I don't want to say specific words here just because of YouTube and because you don't know these people. But when you meet somebody and they do something to somebody else that is truly, truly bad, and it's like you barefaced see who they are, and they are not nice people. And then you see them being nice later. Maybe in other aspects they are nice. But you still know when that chance is there, that person will drive the knife into an innocent person. That's what I mean. That is somewhat of a grudge. You could call it a grudge. It's not a grudge, but it's the same phenomena that they're describing with grudge. Because grudge is when you don't forget. And what most people would say is you need to forget if you want to be happy. I think this is one of the keys to why I'm so optimistic. One of the surprising things about me is that I do not forget. Okay? I do not forget. I never forget. I'm a fucking elephant when it comes to evil. But at the same time, I know that there's very few people like that. But believe me, when I meet somebody who's truly evil, in a way, I'm kind of their nemesis. Because I'm not one or the other. They're not going to make me bitter. And I'm not going to be optimistic and forget about them. Oh, I remember. Oh, I see who they are. I know exactly who they are. And that never changes. Because once you know something like this is like when you look beyond the mask. This is when you know the truth. It's like when you have a serious problem in your engine. You know, it might be running fine today, but you know that there's something seriously wrong in there. It's only a matter of time until the thing totally breaks down. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. And I think that if you can do this thing, which is kind of amazing actually, where you're not generalizing and you're not holding grudges, but you see truth in certain people, and at the same time, you have the ability to temporarily let it go. Not in the sense of forgetting, but in the sense of just doing other things. So I can see something. I can see a government do something. I'm not going to mention specific governments, and it's not the United States government. But I know a government that is downright evil at the core. And and this is from personal experience, and I know, but at the same time, and I don't forget, but by knowing that they are truly evil, okay, have evil intentions, and they have evil actions, and that they covered up and they will never change, and that is just a dark place, by knowing that and accepting that, strangely, that allows me to be optimistic. Because my belief is, if you have a weak foundation, this is why most people are not happy. Because they have a very weak foundation. Their foundation is either be optimistic and forget everything and just move on, or get stuck in it. And I'm saying, if you really want to be optimistic and have peace within your own soul, you have to hold on to truth. But you have to do it in such a way that it doesn't ruin your health. It doesn't ruin your life. It doesn't take over your thinking or time. But when you call it up, you're like, yep. You know what I mean? Like, yep, that's evil. And it sucks. And it sucks that nobody can handle it, can deal with true evil. I think one of the keys to remaining optimistic is both to understand it exists, evil exists, and not to forget that, and not to let it ruin your life, and at the same time, to be able to see it in context. See evil in context. So a person might have an evil side to them. That doesn't mean they're truly evil. Other people have given up, and they're just waiting. They're just waiting. They've got so much anger, and it's fire-spitting anger deep inside themselves. And believe me, this is not a gender thing. There are many women who are so bitter at the very core of their soul, and they're going to do whatever it takes to exact revenge on other people that are happy, because this greatly disturbs them. And the reason why I say that's particularly about women is because in society, we are taught that evil is a gender thing. And I'm going to tell you right now, the wisdom of history is that this is not true. Evil is evil. It is a certain feeling, it is a certain goal, it is a certain way of thinking. There's nothing in that way of thinking. It's a destruction. It's an enjoyment in the flabbergasting or the kind of it's like someone who really enjoys telling kids that Santa Claus doesn't exist. That is something like, that's not evil, but that is, it's like, let's say there's a stairway to evil, right? And there's 100 steps. That's at least one step. That's a type of person who likes when little kids are very disappointed. And they love it. They love to break the news to kids that Santa Claus doesn't exist, right? And I'm not saying you should do this. I'm not saying you shouldn't do this. I'm not saying the way you should raise kids as far as Santa Claus. I'm not saying that shit. But when you see somebody who does believe this and you enjoy making them very sad and cry, these are the type of red flags in yourself that you need to see, because evil is a destination. It's a giving up. You have parts of yourself that could lead to this. Okay? And the way that you don't become this is by accepting that and realizing, being embarrassed about it and saying, I don't want to be like that. That's not who I want to be at the end. When the 100 steps are over, I don't want to be that person. Okay? So I would separate grudges of the sense of mindless generalizations. All women are like this. All men are like this. All certain race are like this. All this are like this. Whatever. Okay? And separating something that is the core of something. Okay? So when you look at a Ponzi scheme, let's use a Ponzi scheme as an example. A Ponzi scheme is something where, very simply, you take $10 from 3 people, and then the 4th person gives you $10, and then after a month, you give them $20. And the other 3 people, right? They've got the investment with you. They think everything is good. They see the guy getting paid out double. They think, wow, this is going to be great. I'm going to get it paid out double. Then you take in 100 people's money. Now those first 4 people, you pay them off. So on the outside, people would say, there's nothing bad about what you're doing because some people are happy, some people are not. Maybe more people are happy than not. No. You got to look at the core of this. This is an evil enterprise that is only giving out good things in order to cheat people, in order to deceive people into giving them your life savings to them, right? So it doesn't matter if they do good along the way. It doesn't matter if they help people with some of the money. It doesn't matter if they pay their taxes. It doesn't matter if many of the early investors are happy. The whole point of that enterprise, of a Ponzi scheme, is to take from others and destroy. And it's no empathy, total lacking in empathy for other people's situation, and destroying other people's livelihood and retirement, right? So that's what I mean by evil. It's the person running it could be very positive and optimistic. They could be purposefully not facing what they're doing. And later they can tell everybody they didn't really know. They didn't understand it was really going to hurt people. Whatever. Their lack of ability to face what they're doing, their actions, is while they're destroying people's lives, this is what evil people do. They don't want to face their own things. So they say, well, they had it coming to them. They should have done their research. They come up with excuses. And then they ignore the fact that the very purpose of that enterprise, that Ponzi scheme, is evil. At the core of it. That's what I'm talking about, the core of it. Okay? So when I see something that at the core is evil, I do not take what most people do. Most people take the view of, let's make everybody happy, let's compromise, it's not so bad, look at all those good. No, look at the fucking core. And by looking at the core, and by not generalizing, and by being intelligent enough to research and to look into the core, you'll say, no, that wasn't evil. That was an honest mistake. A lot of people lost money on that IPO, but there was nobody there. There was no evil. 9 out of 10 businesses do fail. So I'm not saying that a business fails and people lose their money and sadness happens and, retirements are, destroyed. Happiness in old age is destroyed. That doesn't matter because it wasn't designed to be evil at the core. So what you want to be as a non-bitter person is that you have this amazing ability to, when you see evil, okay, which is rare, you just say, yep, that's fucking evil. I don't want to think about it every day. I don't want to fucking spend my whole day watching YouTube videos about this evil, but that is evil. And I know the core of that thing, and the core, the purpose, is for evil intentions. So do never, in order to stay optimistic, you need to build your house on a fucking rock. And the rock is truth. So I recommend, if you don't want to be a bitter person, is to build your life on a rock. Okay? And most things are good. And you can really enjoy those things. And those evil things that you find, you will have the ability to say, you know what? The world does have these things. And I accept that. I am man enough. I am strong enough that I can say, hey, I don't need to ignore that. Because if I ignore that, okay, and I don't tell people, and I don't express, and I don't remember that that was evil, if I don't do that, what am I doing? Essentially what I'm doing is I'm helping the evil person. Let's say you knew Charles Ponzi and you knew him personally, or you knew Bernie Madoff. If you don't tell anybody, like his sons, a lot of people claim to know nothing. Always everybody doesn't know anything. His wife, she doesn't know anything. Let's use his wife for an example. Maybe his sons didn't know. His wife knew. And then everybody's writing now about his poor wife. I tell you something. If your husband is running the biggest Ponzi scheme in world history, okay, and you're his wife, and you know this guy, there is no way she didn't know. I'm telling you right now, the odds are infinitesimal. Okay, it's like being able to, guess, something that's quantumly encrypted. Yeah, there's a number out there you could guess, but it's so unusual and rare, you're never going to guess it. That's why encryption works so well. There is an answer. There's a fucking simple answer to unlock Bitcoin, anything. The problem is, out of so many numbers, that nobody will ever guess it, which is what makes encryption so powerful. It's because encryption's based on the fact that you're never going to fucking guess it, right? The odds are so incredibly low that in real life, you're never going to guess it. And this is the type of thing I would have to say with Bernie Madoff's wife. I have no sympathy for her. In fact, I think she should be in prison too. I think they gave her a break, and and I'll tell you something. A lot of people that had their life destroyed by him, they know this too. And that's why she's getting such a hard time now. Meanwhile, the press, idiots, oh, she didn't know. She didn't do it. You need to be intelligent in order to be optimistic too. Because you can't just say to yourself, okay, if I read a book or if I watch a video and somebody hands it to me on a silver platter that Bernie Madoff did this, Bernie Madoff did that, this caused that thing, and that caused the other thing. And then you say, okay, I get it. I believe this guy, he's telling the truth, and he just described something that is downright evil. I will accept that. So basically what you're doing is, and there's nothing wrong with this, because that's why I watch documentaries, that's why I watch videos, that's why I read books, is because I want to see what other people have figured out. And it sounds like you guys do too. You like to see the things I figured out. And I like to share them, and you like to learn them, and you like to share with me. I'm not talking about that. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to figure everything out. You don't have to make the wheel. You don't have to make computers out of bits and zeros, ones and zeros. You don't have to go. You can use other people's inventions, and you can use other people's discoveries and other people's understandings in life, and you should. You should stand on the shoulders of giants. But also, never forget that you have a responsibility to be that person too that figures things out. And for me, my take is that Bernie Madoff's wife is just like him. They were a team, and there's no doubt about it. And so I will accept what other people learned about Bernie, every documentary, fine. But I add in my own thing because I know people, I know married couples, and I know that there's no way, and I know the way men talk with their wives, they always tell their wives, no fucking way. Okay, that's my take. I'm older. I'm not saying I'm right, but I will stick my flag in the ground here and say, no fucking way. I know people, and I know there's a number you can guess, a quantum fucking encryption number you could guess to unlock any encrypted information, but nobody ever guesses it, despite the fact that there being a very simple number you can just enter to unlock it. But no one ever does because the odds are so low. Okay, so I will I'll put my flag in the ground right here and say, do not cross this line. Here's where truth lies. And she is also evil, right? So holding grudges is much more complicated because when you don't forget truth, when you discover truth and you find out, oh my God, at the heart of this is evil, and you don't forget it. So a year later, you're not like, oh, I don't know, maybe guess it was okay. Some people, Ponzi schemes were happy. Other people were not. They're just jealous because they didn't get out early. Hell no. Hell no. You will not be optimistic because at the heart of optimism is a man, a woman, a person who's building their life on truth. Truth is where real optimism lies. Truth. I believe that. And the ability to accept things that are nasty, like we all die. I don't want to die. Who wants to die? I want to be here forever. But I know without a doubt, I'm 56. In another 56 years, the odds that I will still be here are close to zero. They're not zero, but 56 years from now, 112, they're right up there, close to zero. And when you add 70 years, they're at zero. With today's technology, someone might discover something new. It's true. So they're never going to be zero because someone might invent a time machine. I know they're working on that. They're working on understanding time, just like they worked on understanding gravity. Someone might do it. Someone might make nuclear fusion that produces more energy than it takes to create. That is possible. Obviously, it exists. You can see it on the sun. That's a nuclear fusion barbecue going on there. But no one's done it yet. Okay? And so they've created fusion, but not, it took so much energy to create that fusion, and the fusion energy that was created was not worth it. Okay? So someone might discover that. But with today's technology and the way I only can assume things are going to go is that I will die. In 70 years, I will die. Now, I don't like that. I would prefer not to think about that all the time. I take it seriously. I know that I will be underground and nobody will remember me. And that will happen. It might be a few generations, people in my family might remember my name. People might remember a few things about me. Maybe there'll be a video online, whatever. But I'm gone. Okay? Now, how do I stay optimistic is because I'm not building my life on quicksand. Don't build your life on quicksand. This is not the way to be optimistic. This is the way to either continually lie to yourself, which does not help you, because that in itself is a very energy-intensive business, wasteful. Accepting that there are things that are very distasteful in life. Thinking about them. Realizing they are true. Whether it's evil or death, the fact that we won't live on forever, or that some bad people will get their way. And that's the way it is. Accepting that. But not generalizing. Okay? So you're not saying that Bernie Madoff is this certain genetic composition, and those people are all like that. That's the that's the grudge. That's the generalization that I'm talking about here. If you do that, if you see what Bernie Madoff did and who he is and what his wife did, and you accept that that's bad, but you don't say everybody's like that, because what proof do you have of that anyway? There is no proof. You're talking about Bernie Madoff and his wife. So this is the important part. This is how you maintain optimism. Allow for the exceptions. Realize how few they are. But when you see them, don't fucking forget them. And move on. Accept that some things in life are not fair, and they will continue to be not fair. And you will stay very, very optimistic, because you'll be like, hey, you will not be a bitter old man, because you understand, you're not stupid, but you don't want to spend time thinking about it either. You know what I mean? Like you can manage that beast. It's like knowing there's a poisonous snake in your yard. You know he's there. When you go out there, you look for him. There he is over there. Okay, fine. But you're not like, I won't go outside ever again. You know what I mean? The backyard's evil. It's like, no, there's a snake there. Poisonous snake. Don't step on the snake. Don't surprise the snake, right? And you're going to be just fine. And your life's going to be fantastic. There's many things in life that can kill you, but it doesn't mean they're evil. You just don't step on them. Just avoid them. Know they're there. Don't step on them. Okay, what's the next thing you can do to not be a bitter person? Or what can you see in yourself in your 20s that will lead you to have a realization that can help you to not be a bitter person? Look at your jealousy. Look honestly at who you're jealous of. Now, jealousy is a natural emotion. Envy, one kid wants a toy, that's not evil. You're jealous of somebody else. You're envious of their things. You're jealous of their traits. You're jealous of what they got in life. This is a normal emotion. Okay? So you're allowed to have normal emotions. Again, this is fine. It's where you become bitter is when you let it take too much of yourself. And I think also covering it up doesn't help either. When you say, hey, I'm jealous of some people make me envious. I know when I was young, somebody that's very, very close to me became extremely wealthy. And it was not something they'd really earned. And it made me very envious for a long time. And there was a period of time when it was difficult for me I don't know if anybody on the outside saw. I doubt it. I'm not the naturally envious type, and I'm not the naturally jealous type. It's not my modus operandi. But this was extremely difficult because we're talking about extreme wealth here and extremely easy, almost done nothing of their own. And the unfairness of that just got to me. It's like I'm here struggling, working, doing my thing, and this other person over there, it's one thing to be jealous of rich people, but it's another thing to know somebody in your own life who for a fact just got insane amount of money, because most rich people earned it, honestly. I'm not talking about that. And that can really stick in your throat, it stuck in mine. It was difficult for me for a long time. Over time, that one got a little easier. It was never easy because it was so unfair from my perspective. And I struggle with it, Not with many people in my life, very, very few actually. But I struggle with it. And this is what you're talking about. To maintain that optimism, you need to struggle with your weakness or with whatever fate or destiny put in your life. So you might be very short, and there might be no women interested in you, right? Because of a number of reasons. This is the type of thing I'm talking about. It's something that you can't really change. It's painfully true. It's never going to change. And it's all around you. And it's easy to get lost in it and just to get bitter. You really need at some point to be honest with yourself and just admit your own jealousy and envy. You need to be able to do it. You need to talk about it. You need to say, I'm fucking envious. And I hate admitting that I would have this thing, right? I hate admitting I have faults. It's not pretty. All of these things that you have to accept to not be a bitter person are flaws within yourself that are not going to be pretty by definition. I'm not talking about pretty things here. But by facing, so we looked at evil on the outside, and now we're looking at weaknesses inside yourself. When you accept and make fun of yourself and tell other people, I started to tell people I was envious. This was the best thing I ever did. I said, I'm envious. They got a lot of money for free, and I didn't. And every day they fly around, they do this. I don't even want to say the specifics but they do this, they do that, and they have this power because of that, and I don't. And then I was able to call myself out. And here's how I worked through it. I worked through this one. Here's how I got over the envy. And this worked for me. Is what will happen is when you face your weakness, at first it will seem hopeless, okay? Because you will think, well, let's say you're jealous of somebody. And you'll be like, yeah, I'm fucking jealous. And you'll tell your friends that you're jealous. And your friends will now know that you're jealous. And then you will still feel jealous. In fact, you might even feel more jealous because you're thinking about it more. But that's short term. Look at the long term. The long term is when you start to figure life out. It's when new ideas come in, new understandings, new perspectives, new tools. And for me, the tool was this. At some point in my life, I realized, I never talked about this on Ronin, man. I realized that, okay, I'm not going to get the wealth this other person has. Okay, that's not going to happen. It will never happen, okay? It's almost, the odds would be like guessing a quantum encryption code to unlock, That's not going to happen, realistically. Just like I'm not going to live to 300 years old, realistically. But at some point I realized something very, very good, actually, about it. At some point I realized that what I got from that was very valuable, actually. Because unlike almost everybody listening right now, I have seen true wealth. I mean, beyond your wildest imaginations. I have been around it. And because of that, of course I was envious. But what did I learn from it? Eventually, I learned a lot of things because I started to distance myself at some point. And I started to realize that, have you ever read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? And then, what was the other one by him? Napoleon Hill. Basically, what he did was he went to all the most, I mean, this is the story, but just take it for what it is. Let's just say it's true. He went to the richest people in the world at the time, and he asked them how they did it. And this is pre-internet, when rich guys didn't meet poor people. And he was able to listen to them. And by hearing how they did it, he was able to write a book. And he was able to create rules and ways of thinking that could help other people to reach that goal. And by doing that, he created a lot of value. Because instead of the ideas they had locked in their own minds, he was able to put it on paper and then sell that paper. And they were happy with it. They were happy with him selling the paper with their ideas on it. They were totally happy with it. They were happy with giving these ideas away. And he was able to make some money for himself and not be broke. So he never reached what they reached, but he was able to take their knowledge, share it with the world, create a lot of value with them, and also help the people that had the knowledge to feel better about themselves because they could see that their knowledge funneled through Napoleon Hill was able to do good in the world. And so everybody won. He won, the rich people won, because they loved it. The rich people that are good people, they love to help people because they know they can't make the world fair. But if they can just bring something good to the world, they feel good about it. That's why they give to charity, right? And in this case, charity was giving away ideas, okay? At some point, I realized I'm kind of like Napoleon Hill. Because by being around true wealth, I learned things that you will never learn. By odds, you're never going to be around people this. You're not going to be around this amount of wealth and power. You're not going to be that close to it. But by being near it, I was able to, and not having any of it, okay, I didn't get any of it. But by being near it, I was able to learn the truth. And this is why everybody talks about the 1%. You notice I never talk about the 1%. I never talk about Bilderberg. I never talk about that kind of shit. Why do I never do that? Because I know people very close that are that rich. And I actually know the truth about them. And the people that I know, and we're talking the top type people, I don't want to give any more hints. But because of that, it's just like knowing. Okay, let's put it in words you can understand. Let's not make it all mystical. Let's say you live next door to Tom Brady, or you live next door to Bruce Willis. And every day you see them in their yard. You see them on the phone. You see their friends come over. You know, they come over and let's say you live next door for 30 years. And you can hear them. You can see them. Eventually you'll start to know a lot about them. Because you'll be like, wow, that guy struggles with a lot of things. You know, I can see the press coming to his door all the time. It makes him pissed off. You know, I can see that, you know, he struggles with this. His career is maybe not as good as before. You know, he struggles for relevance as he gets older. The genre of movies he used to be in is now kind of waning, and his age takes him out. You're going to start to see that his life is not perfect. And at some point, you're going to realize, you will learn a lot of things about him, and you'll kind of be, wow. You won't see him as a cookie cutter character in a comic book anymore. And you'll be like, yeah. And you might even say at some point, depending on the guy, let's say the famous guy, you might actually say at some point, I don't really want to live his life. As much as you can see what he has, you can see the good parts, right? You might be the butler. You might be the guy who fixes his car. I don't know, could be his friend or his high school friend, neighbor, whatever. Someone who really knows the guy, really knows the guy. You could be a psychologist. I don't know. And at some point, you might you might really realize that although other people will see him as having a perfect life and being extremely envious and jealous, they really don't know the guy. And if you really knew this particular guy or the forces that are at work there, okay, you're going to see it in a more holistic way. And you might come to you might say, I'd love to be Bruce Willis, or I'd love to be whoever that is. But you very well might too. And you know what I'm talking about. Like when you really know somebody. I don't know if you know any famous people, but if you ever know them, you might, at some point, you might start to see them and say, yeah, I see they got a lot of good things going on, but honestly, I wouldn't trade it for what I have. And it's because of this or that. Or you might say, you know what? I would trade it. Okay. But I also know I'd be giving up this and this and this. And a lot of times what you're giving up is privacy. And when you really think about privacy, it's the ability to, it's got a lot of meaning actually, privacy. Not everybody knows who you are. Not everybody looks, is trying to take you down all the time. And you can make better friends because not everybody's trying to use you, right? Not everybody's trying to get introductions to directors and things, right? And the people that are actually hanging with you actually like you, right? That's meaningful, right? So anyway, at the end of the day, whether you will want to become them or be willing to trade your life for them, you might. But you're also going to know that it's not roses over there. Because it's not. You will see them and the complexity of their life for what it is, right? And I realized this for myself. And I also learned, that was part of it. That's part of the way I got over envy. But the other thing that was really good for me is I realized that I didn't have to look on the bright side. I just had to look honestly at myself. What did I learn? I learned a hell of a lot about money. I learned how money does or doesn't change people. I watched people go from the very bottom to the very top. And I know the struggles they go through. I know the transformations that they need to go through. I understand why they act the way they do. I actually understand very wealthy people at a very fundamental level. Partly because it happened so young too. I was around it. Like it wasn't when I was older. It was pretty young. It started to happen. And it only got more as I got older. And I now am grateful. Just like Napoleon Hill. Okay, let me go back. The thing of not wanting to become them and like realizing Bruce Willis is not perfect, that's good. Okay, that's real. But it's not the answer. The answer for me this was difficult because a lot of people would want to have these things that these people have. I learned that by being around that, I learned something that nobody else learns. Very, very few people learn. And that is incredibly valuable advice. And I can give advice. Like I can make, for example, what has it given me? Well, I have a lot of famous friends and rich friends. And that's not by coincidence. Is the reason why when they meet me, when they see me, when they really get to know me, they're like, they trust me because they know I've already learned how to deal with myself. I've learned how to handle my own envy and jealousy. Because really successful people know that when you really know them, you're going to want to be them. Okay? Because there is no sugarcoating this shit. Okay? Some people's lives is better than others. But they know that you're one of those people that can somehow handle it. They don't know how you do it, but they know because they're experienced in their own life. Some people are just able to be friends with them and just not want anything from them and be cool with the fact that they have almost everything, right? Whatever it is that they want, they get, and that you're able to overcome your own internal weaknesses and to be a fucking good friend to them. And I'll tell you one thing, is that extremely wealthy people, there's one thing that they really don't have, and that is people they can trust. And this is what I learned, is that I am a person that people can trust. And I learned it from my own experience. The only way you learn that you're trustworthy is when you're sitting there and there's gold bars laying all over the fucking place. And there is money to be taken that nobody would ever know. Let's say when it comes to theft, right? So much money. And when I say money, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about where it could be fame. It could be anything that would make you envious. It could be women. It could be opportunities. It could be power. But there's a boatload of riches in front of you. And you can accept who you are. And you can accept somebody else who has all those things. And you can connect with them. And you can see them as a human being. And so what role do I play in these people's lives? I often play the one friend they have. Like the real friend. Because I can just do it. I've been around it so long. It was so difficult for me. And I struggled with it. And I learned. And I really accepted my dark side. And my weakness. And now it truly does not bother me. I can accept people that have a lot more than me. And I can be friends with them. And I have my own lines. You know how I eat. You saw what I eat. And I'll tell people. I will have a very extremely wealthy friend. Very famous. He's got fucking everything, right? And I'll just say, look, I'm going to go eat what I'm going to eat because I have to eat. I'm hungry. And they'll say, well, don't go eat fucking cans of tuna and vegetables from the fucking rack or whatever. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I'll pay. I don't mind. And I'm like, no. I'm going to go eat and I'll be back. And they're like, okay, that's what you want to do. Because I'm also not here. I don't want to, at the time I'm friends with them, but I don't want to live off them, right? And that's the balance. That's what a friend is. A friend is this complicated, friends are not perfect, right? But I draw my lines. I said, look, I'm happy eating instant coffee. I'm happy eating cans of tuna. Like, I don't need anything else. Like, I'm going to go eat some fucking food and I'm going to feel fucking great. And I'm going to come back and we're going to have a fucking great day today. And there's something in them where they're like, damn, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could live that way. If I could separate those things. But I learned how to. And that's what I learned. And so the way that I stayed optimistic and the way that I was not bitter was by first accepting the ugliness of it and the difficulty of it and my own weakness for many, many years with no answer. Because all I could see for decades, as far as this issue goes, don't get me wrong, I was living a great life. Okay, I was having a great life. You know my life, right? My life was fucking amazing. But this emotion was still there. Everybody has these, okay? And for me, it was so real because, like I said, this was something that was very real. And I was very close to. I could not look the other way. It's like a concert. It's so loud, you cannot ignore it, right? You can forget that it's loud, but it's still loud. And I accepted that. And I was able to move forward with this difficulty, even though I was admitting it and I still had it and I didn't see any answers and I didn't even see how I could possibly have any answers. All I saw is that I was envious and that I was never going to have what they had. That's all I saw. And that was very true. And that was absolutely the case. But by holding on to that, by being able to see the ugliness of that and not running away for many, many decades, it just came to me. I was like, wow. All of a sudden I could see the world differently because I thought, why do I have all these fucking good friends? Like really, really abundant friends, right? I mean, of course, I have all kinds of friends. But why do I have those ones? Because those ones are hard to find because most people, a lot of these people are very lonely, actually. Why do they gravitate towards me? And I thought, why is that? And I thought, oh, well, it must be something you were born with. And no, that's not it. And no, that's not it. And I thought, oh, right. Eventually I traced back to the fact that I learned how to deal with my own temptations, face myself, deal with myself, and I'm done with it. Okay? By doing that, I was able to clean out the cobwebs. And I have very few, very, very few darkness, things in my life that are hidden. It's open because I've gone in there. I've dealt with it. And this is the way that not only you're not a bitter person to other people, but you have shining optimism inside of you. Okay? There's a lot there. There's a lot there. Okay? There's a lot there. So I hope you go back and listen to this one a few times. This is some wisdom here. I will never get into specifics on this one. Okay, so do not ask me about the specifics. Okay? Do not ask me about the specifics. But I'll tell you something. This is one of the greatest lessons of my life. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for this lesson because it allowed me to be able to be in a different space. Because I'll end on this. When you've had temptation and you learned how to deal with it, you were very different than people who never had temptation. A lot of people will tell you, oh, you shouldn't sleep with all those women. Well, they never had temptation because they couldn't do it. Or somebody who's like, let's say a famous rock musician, he dies of drug overdose, and they'll say, oh, he's an idiot. But they never had that temptation. They never struggled with that themselves. And here they are judging with somebody who is struggling with a temptation that was very, very fucking real for them. And they learned how to live comfortably with this temptation. So don't take advice from people who have never been there. They might be saying the right words, but they didn't go through the struggle to get it. It's like they got the answer, okay, to a math problem. But when you look at where, like let's say on a test, when you're in high school, you got the algebra, they always made you write out your logic to get the answer. In my class, you could never just write the answer. The teacher always wanted to see how you got to the answer. Okay, you might have the answer there, but he's like, there's no way you can get to this answer without going through this struggle. And so this is how you have to go through the struggle, right? So by accepting your very difficult emotions, even if you don't have answers, but keeping a sense, maybe just from this video, that at some point, it might take decades, at some point you're going to see something in this, another direction, a helicopter view, and a wisdom will come out of it. A wisdom will come out of it. And when you find that wisdom, if you're able to struggle through these things, you will never could be a bitter person. Because what is there to be bitter about? Like, what is there to fucking be bitter about? You can handle your most darkest things, the most difficult struggles, and temporarily it might be difficult. But that's the difference, is bitter. Pain and difficulty is totally different than bitter. A bitter old man, it's iced, it's 100 feet under ice, it's frozen over, it ain't ever getting uncovered, it's deep space, minus 10,000 degrees, it's done. He's given up, right? Struggle and pain and ripping of your own insides and the embarrassment of admitting that you have these things is not what I'm talking about. That's not the dark, cold giving up that a bitter old man has. And it's actually very easy not to be a bitter person because we all have struggles. We all have struggles. And when you know, you will figure it out. You will get over it. You will, even in the middle of a difficult time, you'll be like, fucking hey, man, I'm going to do it. Ronin man said it, and I believe it. Some point, I'm going to have a different perspective on this thing. Somehow. Something's going to change. Either in facts on the ground, my understanding of the world, new information, learnings all coming together. Or like me, when I discovered, all of a sudden, this is how I got the realization, is I looked around at my friends, I'm like here's what happened. Somebody that was very, very, very powerful told me, they said, I love being around you. I said, why? And they said, because you're like my first friend. I've never been able to have a real friend. And I was like, really? He's like, everybody wants something from me. He's like, you're like my first fucking friend as an adult. He goes, and I treasure our friendship. And I was like, wow, fuck. And then I thought about it. And he said, why, how did I, what was that? And then I started thinking, wow, there's like a lot of people who are kind of in that class where they don't have people they can trust and be friends with. And then I was like, why am I like this? And I thought, well, it must be because of my personality. I'm like, no. A lot of people have personality like mine. And then there was a point I realized, oh, fucking A. It was because of that thing that I was super embarrassed about. It wasn't just that I was around something that made me very envious. Is that I faced it. And I dealt with the demons. Somebody who's very, very successful. They know you're going to have to deal with your demons. And they don't trust you when you just write the answer down. They have to know that you're the type of person who you got to the answer through struggle. You got the answer through temptation. You got the struggle through hard-fought punches in the face, punches in the gut, wind knocked out of you, your own worst enemy, difficult battle with the beast inside of you. And you are at the answer. And the reason why that's so important is because when somebody sees somebody who went through the struggle, you know who they are. See, you know who they are. Because this is what they became, right? After all that, this is what they became. Despite all that, through all that, and this is what they became. And there's like, wow, that's cool. That's cool. That's what you want. That's what you want. All right, guys, there's a lot here. But I think this is the blueprint for not being bitter. And just because you're young, this shit starts early, my friends. So if you're in your teens, or say you're 18, or you're 20, or 25, or 30, do not think that age makes you bitter, because that is bullshit. And that is that blind spot is what will cause you to not look at your own life and struggle with your own things. Like I struggle with my envy of wealth and power. If you don't struggle with those demons in you, they will take you over. They will cause you to either two ways, to be a bitter person or a fake optimistic person. To me, very similar. Because the fake optimistic person, at the end of the day, deathbed time, they're bitter as fuck. And I'm not. And I hope you're not too. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.